This is Richard. Richard is a weighted possum plushie that is made out of granny squares. And today, Richard and I are going to walk you through how to make your very own. Tiny disclaimer first, this is not a pattern for Richard. This is more of a guide because I've only ever made one. So I'm just going to walk you through my process. Let's get started.
The first thing I did was grab some worsted weight yarns in a bunch of different colors, these pastels plus the basic colors of a possum, so white, gray, black, and pink. Once you have your colors, you're going to start making granny squares. You can do this using literally any basic size granny square from 4 to 6 inches. I use this Yumna pattern that is on the screen right now, as well as a 3.5mm hook, so the squares were a little bit tighter, which helps with seepage. If you want to pause and screenshot really fast, here's the number of squares you'll need in each color, plus some extras, but we'll talk about that later. Once you're finished with your 18 granny squares, lay all the gray ones out so the colors are set up like you want them. And now the time has come for the fun part, and by the fun part, I mean sewing everything together. I used what I'm tentatively calling a lazy girl's mattress stitch. So go in and out like you would with shoelaces, and this way they can lay flat against each other. It'll look like this, and then you're going to sew the first row of 3 to the last row of 3, so you make one big giant tube. And I didn't worry about weaving in ends, I just used them as a little extra stuffing. For the pink, sew the 2 together, and then sew along the sides of the granny squares to make one long tube, and for the black, sew along the sides of each granny square to make 4 tiny tubes. Now it's time to do the booty. Do 1 row of half double crochet all the way around one of the ends of your tube, and then you'll start to slowly decrease. I decreased every 8 stitches, and the next row every 7, and then every 6, 5, 4, etc. until I decreased every stitch, and that will create this butt shape. Now you're going to make 4 or 5 half double crochet rows on the end of your little pink tube, and leave it there before you start decreasing to move on to the head. I did 3 rows of normal half double crochet on the other side of the gray tube to form the head before I started decreasing every 8 stitches, and here's a trick to making the head more elongated. Only do your decrease every other row.
We're going to interrupt you, pause on the head and tail for a bit, and we are going to make his little paws and his little ears before we focus on the next part.
To start off with paws, here is a monstrosity I have created, and the first thing you're going to want to do is check your black granny square tubes and see how many stitches are on one end of it. You want it to match, right? Now grab your crochet hook and your scissors, and you're going to chain as many stitches as were on that tube end. So for me, that was 18. Now slip stitch your first stitch to your last, making sure that your chain hasn't twisted at all. Chain 1 and then single crochet all the way around and slip stitch your first stitch to your last again and chain 1 again. On your second row, you're going to single crochet 3, and then you're going to increase 1 all the way around and slip stitch your first to your last and chain 1, which by the way, I'm not going to say anymore because you have to do it on every round. So just do it from now on. On your next row, single crochet 4 times and then increase once. And then on your row after that is where things get spicy. You're going to single crochet twice, chain 5, half double crochet in the second chain from your hook and all the way back down the chain, and repeat that 4 more times for 5 toes total. Toes total, get it? Sorry. Once you're done with that, single crochet back to the start of your row. And then for the next row, round, whatever, you're going to single crochet twice, and then you're going to half double crochet around each toe. So in each stitch round, and you're going to put 2 half double crochets in the very top stitch at the apex of the toe. Single crochet once between each toe and repeat all the way around until you get done with the toe part. I'm sorry, I'm trying not to take myself toe seriously. Once you get done with the toes, you are going to single crochet 4 times and then do 1 decrease all the way back to the starting point, and then on your next round, single crochet 2 to kick it off. This might sound a little dicey, but just trust the process. Single crochet up the toe, put 2 in the apex of the toe, and then you're going to slip stitch each side of the toe coming all the way down. Do your single crochets in between each toe, and as usual, repeat 5 times. When you get to the end of the little toe section, you are going to single crochet 3 times and decrease once all the way back to start. For the next round, all the way around, you're going to single crochet 2, decrease 1, even across the bottom of your little toe section. The round after that, single crochet and decrease, trading off between the 2, and then after that, you're going to decrease all the way around, and this should have brought the bottom of your paw pretty close together. Fasten off, cut off a decently sized tail, and use the tail to to cinch tight the little hole that's left. Now that you're all done and all proud of your work, repeat this 3 more times. You need 4 paws, people. Now it's time to make 2 of these little ears. It's essentially a circle that's slightly flatter on one side. So you're going to start with a magic circle and you're going to single crochet 6 times into the magic circle. On the next round, you're going to increase in every stitch, so you have 12 stitches, and the round after that, you're going to increase every other stitch, so you have 18 stitches. And then the round after that, you guessed it, you're going to single crochet 2, increase 1. And then for the next round, you're going to do 4 single crochet and then 3 single crochet and an increase all the way around until 4 stitches are left, and you're just going to do 4 regular single crochets. So we're creating a little bit of a flat edge. After that, it's 4 single crochets and then 3 single crochets and a decrease. And then for the last round, 4 single crochets, a bunch of 2 single crochet decreases, and then 4 more single crochets, and then you fasten off and you have 2 lovely ears. Make 2. I think I said that earlier.
Now it is time to stuff this little guy. There is a reason we haven't finished up his head, and that is because it makes it easier to stuff his little body.
So for the weighted part of the weighted blanket, I just took some scrap fabric and I cut out a folded over rectangle that could fit pretty easily inside the gray body of the possum and sewed all of the edges together, inside out of course, using just a standard back stitch, and then I went over it twice because you don't want anything leaking through because you are going to put rice in here. It doesn't matter what kind. I just used all of our leftover rice from the house. And then my partner had got me some lavender from the farmer's market that day, so I went ahead and added some to the pouch to mix in with the rice so my possum smells like lavender, which it does. Totally, it worked. And then I sewed up the final side and did the flop test. No rice leaking out here. I put it into the tube and then I started to cut up fabric scraps. You could definitely use polyfill for this, but I had a lot of fabric scraps and waste not, want not, right? And cutting them up helps them stay a little bit fluffier than just stuffing whole clothes in there. Once it was to the weight I wanted, I went back to decreasing the front of the head and alternating a decrease row or 2 and stuffing it to make sure the head was nice and full. And I did use yarn scraps for the part that weren't attached to the granny squares because there's less like little holes, you know. Once you only have maybe 2 or 3 rows left until you're going to be too decreased to move anymore, you're going to fasten off your white yarn and go in with the pink yarn, attach it anywhere, and then just continue decreasing, but this time decrease every row for the last 3 rows, and that will make a nice little rounded off nose. Fasten off the pink and use your tail to cinch close that last little gap. Now moving on to the tail, to get it nice and elongated, you can make it as long or short as you want, but I did 2 rows of half double crochet and then 1 decrease row. Stuffing it as you go so that the opening doesn't get too small. Finish it off, and then it's time to adhere the paws to the legs using a simple whip stitch, and here's about the size we were working with right now next to my pit bull. Be sure to stuff each leg with plenty of scraps or polyfill, and don't forget the base of the tail. If you have trouble getting it in all the nooks and crannies, I just use a little comb. You can also squish it a bit to get the stuffing to redistribute properly, and then using that same old whip stitch, attach the ears about 2 rows into the head portion, and then attach each of the legs along the bottom evenly. It doesn't really matter where they are as long as they're even, and attach the tail towards the top of the butt. Now if you want to get a little spicy, I also did a little star pattern by just adding some stitches right below the tail for the anus, and then I adhered googly eyes with Gorilla Glue, but you can use normal plastic eyes. I just couldn't resist. And yeah, I don't want to freak you out, but
that is how you make your very own little Richard. Let's do a 360. Here's his little belly and there's his tail. He's a very good hugger, by the way. All of his little arms. And of course, you've seen his little googly-eyed face. Everybody's got a butt. Thank you for joining. Bye.